Welcome back to my channel. All my new subscribers and my returning subscribers, welcome. Today we're going to make a shredded beef chimichanga with refried beans, as well as some green chilies and shredded cheese. To get started, I'm going to make some pinto beans. I'm going to make it in our pressure cooker. So to get started, I've already washed and rinsed my beans. And I wash them 2 to 3 times just to remove any excess dirt that may be left on our beans. So now that I've washed them, I'm going to add my seasoning to my water. I'm going to use black pepper, seasoned salt, paprika, chili powder, as well as garlic powder. And when you do this, you want to add it directly to your water. And then when you add it, you're going to mix everything together. I'm also going to add some diced onion that I'll cut up, and we'll just mix everything together almost like a soup. And then we're going to take it over to our pressure cooker, and we will pressure cook our beans. So now we have our pressure cooker ready. We just load it in there, put the top on there, and make sure you turn it to sealing when you do this. Now, many pressure cookers will have like a meat and stew button or beans and chili or different buttons like that. It just depends on what type you're using. So go according to the type of pressure cooker that you're using and go by that. And of course, on my pressure cooker, I like to cook my beans a little longer so they can be more tender. Next, I have a beef chuck. This is made for roasting, but we're going to use it today. We're going to make shredded beef out of it. So I've already patted everything dry so we can get our seasonings to stick correctly. I'm going to use seasoned salt, black pepper. I'm also going to use garlic powder, paprika, chili powder, and then we have some salt-free fajita seasoning. So we're just going to season the meat generously and pat all our seasonings into the meat. And again, you can use whatever seasoning works for you, but this particular mix worked extremely well for what we were using our meat for. And season both sides. And also, I like to season the side of a chuck roast, any kind of large cut of meat, a brisket, or something like that. You want to always season every side on your meat. Next, we're going to take it over to another pressure cooker that I have with oil in the bottom, and I'm going to saute the meat to sear the juice in the meat as well as the seasoning in our meat. This is going to help sear everything in. And so I'm going to flip it over and sear the other side as well. Next, that I have everything seared, I'm going to also add chopped onion that I have. Now that we have it seared, we'll turn our saute button off. And then I'm going to add a little beef broth just to make our meat more tender, and the beef broth is going to add a lot of flavor to our meat. Again, you can use water if you choose to, but you're going to get a richer flavor with beef broth. And you don't have to use very much because the meat is going to make its own juice. And we're going to turn that to meat and stew and let that cook. This one's going to cook for around 90 minutes because I want it more tender. So now that we're letting our meat cook, our beans are ready. And so to a pan of around a quarter cup of vegetable oil, or you can use canola oil, I'm going to add my beans. I also add some jalapeno to the beans to give it a little spicy flavor to it. And then you take your beans and you start mashing them. And you're doing this over medium heat. And as you mash your beans, you can stir your beans. Now, depending on what texture you want your beans, some people like theirs thicker, some like them thinner. I like mine a little thinner than this, so what I'm gonna do is I will add some juice from the beans. We still have it, so I'll pour it in there and continue to mix to thin my beans out. And as you can see here, I'm adding my juice left over from the beans, and that also has seasoning in it as well. And stir until it gets to the texture that you like to eat your refried beans at. And the key to these refried beans is just consistently stir your beans. And then once it gets where it turn the heat off, when it gets to where you want it, so the beans do not thicken up. So now that we're done, we see that our beef is ready. So on a cutting board, I'm just going to start shredding our beef. And you can see how juicy the beef turned out. You can shred it with 2 forks. You can chop it with a knife. Shred it however you need to do it, because we're going to put it in a tortilla, and then we're going to put our other toppings in here with it. So now that I have my beef shredded, I just have some store-bought tortillas, the burrito size tortillas, and you want to warm those up first so you can make them more pliable, just where you can actually roll them. And so to this, I'm going to add some refried beans, as well as my shredded beef, and I'm going to add some shredded cheese. And the cheese I used was mozzarella cheese that I cut, and I'm also adding some shredded cheddar cheese on top of that. We're also going to add some mild green chilies as well. So now that we added all of our filling to it, I'm going to roll it. And when you roll a burrito, you want to get it as tight as you can. Start with the side seams. Tuck your seams in, and then from there you can roll it. And as you can see, seam side down. Now when I do that, I mash it down a little bit just to get the seams where it don't come back over on us. You can use toothpicks, but when I make these chimichangas, I actually just put the seam side down. And once you do that and kind of hold them in place for around 10 to 20 seconds, the seam will not come open on you if you have it rolled tight enough. So you want to fry it on medium heat for around 2 to 3 minutes. And you want it to be a golden color like this. And so we'll fry it on our other side for 2 to 3 minutes. And keep your heat on medium so you don't want to burn your tortilla. And as you can see, I'm kind of holding it down just to get the edges a little bit more brown as well. So now that our chimichangas are done, we'll place them on a cooling rack, or you can place them on paper towels. That's fine as well. So now we see that it's done, and I'm going to serve it with some sour cream. You can use any toppings you want to, as well as a salsa, avocados, whatever you want to use. And that's the final look. Drop me a comment, like, and subscribe. See you next video.